6 kilograms of gold. 9 vessels, perfectly preserved. Enough to proclaim a king. Enough to draw rivals. Not fragments. Not a scattered hoard. But a complete ceremonial service, buried intact beneath the soil of southern Bulgaria. In antiquity, this region was known as Thrace, a land of warrior kings on the edge of the Greek and Persian worlds. But the mystery is not the metal. It's why someone chose to bury it in secret, and why they never came back. On the 8th of December 1949, the winter light hung low over a clay pit near Panagyurishte. At the Merrill tile factory, 3 brothers, Pavel, Petko, and Mihail Deikovi, were cutting into the earth. They weren't looking for history, they were just working a shift. Then, a shovel struck something that did not sound like earth. It wasn't stone. It wasn't pottery. It was metal. As they cleared the soil, a nested arrangement emerged, one vessel placed carefully inside another, sealed by centuries of packed clay. When the first piece finally caught the light, the brothers were looking at something no living person had seen for more than 2,000 years. In that moment, the Deikov brothers faced a choice. 1949 was a time of deep hardship in Bulgaria. They were men of calloused hands and thin pockets, standing over 6 kilograms of pure wealth. Most would have seen a way out of poverty, a chance to sell the gold piece by piece and change their fortunes forever. Instead, they did something remarkable. They took the vessels to a nearby brook, washed the centuries of clay from the gold, and stood in awe of what they had saved. They didn't look for a black market buyer. They looked for a way to give it back to history. They notified the authorities immediately, ensuring the Panagyurishte treasure would belong to the world. Once the vessels were in the hands of experts, the investigation turned to the metal itself. Chemical analysis revealed the gold was nearly perfect, a staggering 23 to 24 carats. This wasn't recycled scrap. It was refined, high-purity gold, likely pulled from the mountain rivers of Thrace itself. The dating didn't come from a label, but from the weight. Small inscriptions on the vessels noted their value in darics and staters, the currency used in the decades immediately following Alexander the Great. These marks, combined with the masterful carving, pinned the treasure to a specific window, roughly 300 BCE. The gold was a snapshot of a world, caught in a storm of shifting power. The craftsmanship was staggering. These were not hammered sheets. Each vessel was created through lost wax casting, a method with no second chances. An artisan sculpted every vein, every horn, and every muscle in wax. The model was then encased in clay and fired until the wax melted away, leaving a hollow void. Molten gold filled that emptiness. When the clay mold was broken, the form emerged, complete and irreversible. The mold was destroyed in the process. There was no template, no duplication, no correction. Each piece is singular. If the cast failed, the gold was recovered, but the art was lost forever. The last hands to lift these objects had belonged to someone in an ancient Thracian court. A noble, a priest, perhaps a king. It had once stood in a hall heavy with smoke and wine. It had been raised in ritual, tilted in ceremony, and passed between allies to seal oaths of blood. And then it vanished. There were 9 vessels in total, 7 raita shaped as stags and rams, their horns curling in frozen motion. A monumental amphora decorated with scenes of heroes, and a wide file covered in 144 individual faces. But this was not a tomb. There were no bones, no chamber, no inscription. The entire service had been lowered directly into the open earth, protected, but without a monument. It doesn't look like a ritual. It looks like a panic. In the years after Alexander, the Balkans were a meat grinder of shifting alliances. Gold declared your right to rule, but it also made you a target. Someone made a choice. They took 13 pounds of worked gold and committed it to the clay for safekeeping. You do not hide wealth like this unless you expect to return. But the owner never did. Perhaps they fell in battle. Perhaps they fled. Or perhaps, more hauntingly, they simply couldn't find it. A burned landmark, a churned field, a landscape altered by war. It is possible the owner once walked this very ground in a desperate, sweating search, only steps away from the gold cooling beneath their feet. Today, the treasure rests in Sofia. The gold survives, but the name of the one who buried it does not. In those same violent decades, another Thracian ruler chose differently. While this gold was being lowered into soil, Thrace III was raising stone. He built a city. He prepared a monumental tomb. He cast his own image in bronze. One ruler concealed his power in the earth. The other anchored his in permanence. Both belonged to the same unstable world, but only one intended to be remembered. If you want to understand the king who chose monument over concealment, the ruler who left his face behind instead of his fear, then you need to see what happened to Thrace III.